Hello from the Dukascopy TV studio in Geneva. We're talking about energy issues in Europe and more particularly the renewable energy with Mr. Oleg Dzioubinski. He is from the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe. Welcome, Mr. Dzioubinski.
Thank you very much. I appreciate having me here.
Thank you. We have a lot of developments in the energy sector in Europe right now. Can you give us an overview?
Okay. That is a big question. I'm not sure I really can give a full overview, but I'll try to point to the main issues. Of course, during last, I would say, several years and last couple of years in particularly, energy issues became of more importance to European countries. If we are talking about the European Union, the important issues became energy security, first of all, security of supply, and that led to, and also the issues of energy efficiency did not go away in any way. In terms of energy security, one of the important points was diversification of the energy sources, so that would allow to decrease reliance on particular suppliers of energy, particularly in the cases where the market share of those suppliers is too big or it has a monopoly position. An interesting development, a recent development, is in February this year, the European Commission has decided on, it issued a framework document, I can say, on establishing a European Energy Union. And that is really important because it gives, first of all, one of the ideas behind it is to give more power to consumers, for consumers to have more say in terms of choosing energy sources. It will have, the consumers will have more advantages because of increased competitiveness. The idea of having energy being more affordable is part of it. And of course, I think one of the important things behind it is, again, energy security. It also gives a lot to think about to businesses. What is also interesting there, that energy efficiency is now considered by the European Union, as it was called before by the International Energy Agency, the first fuel. So you now look at energy efficiency not just as means to decrease energy consumption, but also as, in fact, one of the almost supply factors to be considered on the same level as you consider any other fuel. And this is true because, in fact, if you decrease the demand, then you don't need as much supply as you needed before. You don't need to build another power station, for example.
And one also other trend is, of course, always renewable energy, right? And you just brought a chart here. Can you a little bit describe what this stands for?
The renewable energy is part of the European Union energy strategy. In its 2020 program, it has a target, and you can see it here, of achieving 20% share of renewables by 2020. In fact, we can see that they might be or might be not on the path to achieving that target, but the trend is pretty clear. From 2004 to 2013, we have an increase in the share of renewables from just above 8% to 15% 2 years ago. And I don't think that is going to change. We have variations from year to year in terms of building new capacity. Let's not forget that for a lot of renewable energy sources, there are subsidies, and they vary from country to country, but also by countries, they vary from year to year. When we had economic crisis, the government coffers didn't have enough money very often to maintain the subsidies at the same level. We know that, for example, solar in Spain went down sharply. New solar power stations and new solar installations because the subsidies went down. However, for many of the renewable energy technologies, they are at the level where they can survive without subsidies. Let's also not forget, if we are talking about subsidies, overall, globally, the amount of subsidies for fossil fuels is close to $550 million, according to the International Energy Agency. For renewable energy, it's around $120 billion for both. So you have more than fourfold amount of subsidies for fossil fuels than for the renewables. So we are talking about the level playing field for different types of energy, and in this case, renewable energy we can consider cleaner energy than fossil fuels. Then, well, let's create that level playing field.
And you mentioned the fossil fuels and also the subsidies, and one macroeconomic trend, of course, is the lowering of the gas prices that has been going on since the end of last year. This has been seen as a major positive impact for boosting the world economy, but actually will this also impact the production of green energy, and how do you see the development of this sector in the near future then?
Indeed, both oil and natural gas prices went down sharply. However, I don't think that will affect developments in renewable energy. However, I think the trend will continue. Trend in increasing the share of renewable energy will continue. Many countries, including those that have major fossil fuel resources, be it oil or gas, have their policy supporting renewable energy. One example outside of the European Union, and maybe it will sound not as impressive as what we see for the EU, is Kazakhstan, that has huge oil resources, and share of renewables in that country is minuscule. It's less than 1%. However, they have a target, I believe, by 2020 to achieve 3%, which is still small, but the trend is there. So even if you have cheap coal, because in addition to oil that they export, they have coal that they use for their power stations, they still want to improve the situation with renewable energy, because the climate change is not going away. Everybody accepts that. We will have Conference of the Parties for the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change this year in Paris, where major decisions will have to be made if the goal of increase of global temperature not more than 2 degrees has any chance of being kept at that level. So that is inevitable. I mean, countries have to do work on the renewables, because fossil fuels, first of all, they're not forever, and again, this decrease in the prices probably is temporary. It may go for another 2 or 3 years, then we'll have another increase, most likely. Another point that I would like to make is for comparing natural gas and renewables, because in fact they are not necessarily competitors. They complement each other. You cannot have renewables, at least at this point of the development of technologies, you cannot have renewables only. For that you need very different type of energy storage than we have now. We need quite a breakthrough in that area. So you need to have a backup, and natural gas, at least at this point, is the best backup and the cleanest backup of all the fossil fuels we have. So they, in a way, they are naturally complementing each other. People often call natural gas as a transition fuel from dirty fuels to renewable energy only. But for now, I think they need to be complementary, and they can be complementary.
Yeah, and here in this chart you are
this is talking about the trend. This doesn't show the share. This is the total gigawatt hours, total power generated annually in all 56 countries of the UN Economic Commission for Europe, and that includes EU 28, all Europe plus the countries of the former Soviet Union plus United States, Canada and Israel. And we see the trend is quite clear. From 2008 to 2012, the increase is there, and the share is also increasing. So I don't think that trend is going to change drastically in any way.
Thank you. So let us quickly also change for another important aspect of the question of electricity and energy. It's electromobility, and so this is of course a growing trend. So just to wrap it up, when do you think we will see electric cars in our personal future, in our personal lives?
Okay, thank you for this question. I have to admit I'm not an expert on transport, on vehicles in general or electric vehicles. What I know about this is that right now the share of electric vehicles on the road is less than 1%. It is growing, and it is growing again if we compare to what we have seen 2 or 3 years ago. Electric vehicles and hybrids are gaining momentum. They have more and more, we have more and more visibility of them. One simple but probably maybe a little bit interesting example, in the Palais des Nations here in Geneva, where UN is based, we now have installed electric chargers for the electric vehicles that work on solar panels. So it's completely free once it's installed. So staff members that have electric vehicles can come to the Palais in the morning, put their vehicles charging and get them charged back in the evening. But I mean, that's just a small anecdote, if I could say. What we can see with electric vehicles, probably their share will grow. At this point, probably slowly, because there needs to be a real breakthrough in terms of, first of all, batteries. They need to become lighter, they need to hold charge for longer, they need to allow people to drive between charging times for longer. I think the best that they have now is something like 200 kilometers. That's not bad. Also, you need the infrastructure, and it's gaining momentum. It's going on slowly. Whether we'll be all in the electric vehicles in 5-year time, I cannot predict, but probably no. Let's not forget that the internal combustion engines are also improving, and diesel engines are improving, and the car companies don't just stand still in that area as well. The materials for the car bodies, they're changing, they're becoming lighter. So that's all the developments that we see and we hear. And another development that's probably not less important than the rise of the electric vehicles is driverless cars. Those we may see on the roads, I think, sooner than we can imagine today. From what I understand, most of the technological issues have already been solved. Now it's more the issues of proper legislation. And the organization I work for, UN Economic Commission for Europe, actually works in that area. The rules and regulations for road transport, actually that's the place where they are developed and then used both in Europe and all over the world. So that's something that we may become witnesses to quite soon.
So the UN Economic Commission for Europe is really at the forefront of the recent developments in many aspects. Thank you very much, Mr. Oleg Dzioubinski, for being here today.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you.
And thanks for watching. Do make sure to keep clicking back on the Dukascopy TV website for latest updates and exclusive interviews. Have a great day and see you next time.